Welcome to the Afternoon Sports Drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network.
Let's do this thing.
It's just two guys talking sports, and we actually pay them to do it.
You volunteered, didn't you? We're paying you, aren't we?
The first of the duo is an opinionated local sports editor who has made a name for himself thanks to his beard.
That's a serious beard you got going on. I mean, you're heading toward Doug Dynasty, but well-groomed. That's a good look. If I ever did that, that's the look I would go for.
The other guy is a guy who takes no prisoners when it comes to sports.
Let's stomp these dudes.
Together, they bring you the best in Oklahoma State sports talk and opinions on sports from around the country.
That's right. Listen up. Hey, listen up. You.
It's Jason Elmquist.
Today, I'm a mild-mannered reporter for the newspaper.
And Patrick Wheeler.
I'm a very dangerous man.
This is the Afternoon Sports Drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network.
That's what I'm talking about.
Sport. You ain't never heard nothing like this. Let me work. Show me where the mic is. I'm on stage, black shirt and my Timbs. You know how I do it. I ain't playing with you. I've been grinding. Anybody trying to sleep on me, better do something with your eyelids. I hear a lot of whining, but I don't hear a lot of rhyming. Whoa. Everybody got opinions. Let it go into my ear, then I block that. Put me on stage.
What up? It's the Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network.
What are y'all doing out here?
Patrick Wheeler and Jason Elmquist with you here on a Thursday, but as I like to call it, start to the 4th of July weekend, at least for us here at Team Radio here at Triple Play Sports Radio, as we get tomorrow off, and Jason is already taking advantage, right? Jason, you're on the road right now, headed back to good old Kansas. Is that correct?
Not heading to Kansas yet. We're we're heading down to Edmond to drop the dogs off before heading back to heading to Kansas. Just because we're not sure if the 1-year-old puppy that's the twice to three size of the older dog is going to be able to handle spending 4 hours cramped up in a car. So we're taking her down to taking both of them down to spend some time with Grandma and Grandpa Buzzard.
That's probably the best choice. I mean, I'm going to give you an A+ on that decision there.
Certainly.
Yeah. So you've got that taken care of. We've got a lot of stuff to get to here today. Good show coming up for everybody out there. Jimmie Tramel with the Tulsa World is going to join us at around 3:20. Tom Dorado will be in at 4 o'clock, and at 4:30 he'll have Brendan Manzer coming on to talk everything at the basketball tournament, as the Stillwater Stars will play this Saturday on the 4th at 4 o'clock on ESPN, 4 o'clock Central Time on ESPN, against Brotherly Love. Highly anticipated, I know, for a lot of people. There's going to be some I truly believe that's a team that could win it all. I mean, really, they have what it takes to. And when you see the former players on there, the scoring ability, it's going to be fun to watch. So make sure you check that out. Kind of breaking news last evening with OSU football. Senior tackle Dylan Galloway announced that he is retiring from football with the Cowboys after he had he had 4 or 5 injuries there in his college career. Multiple shoulder injuries, leg injury, ankle injury, and said he was just ready to hang it up. Said it's been affecting him too much on and off the field. And I mean, anytime, Jason, no matter what team it is, you lose a senior offensive lineman, especially a tackle. I mean, that's tough to deal with, especially in like a kind of a maybe more of a situation like this where it's not necessarily, for at least for some people, I'm sure, expected.
Well, and that was going to be the biggest question mark for me for Oklahoma State, was that offensive line, and losing someone who had years of experience, just adds to that question now. Obviously, that's going to bring in someone like Tevin Jenkins. Obviously, the West Virginia transfer are going to be your guys with the most experience. They're going to have to step up a little bit more. The guy like Bryce Bray, who played most of last year, you're going to need him to take a huge step. And then you're going to have to figure out someone now to these young guys that everyone's been hyping up that came in under the previous offensive line coach, of them being able to get out there and play now.
Yeah, Tevin Jenkins and Bryce Bray, as you said, being the only returning starters now on that offensive line. So a lot's going to be weighing on their shoulders in this kind of unprecedented type situation, losing a lineman closer to the season like this too. So yeah, there's going to be some big shoes to fill. But Oklahoma State football, I think everything's still kind of pointing in the right direction for them. assuming we can get this season started, hopefully here on time and everything as well. We'll see how that all eventually pans out. We know that, when you look at offensive line, you obviously think about quarterback, but you also think about, in this situation, the run game with Chuba Hubbard. And, last year, when you look at Dylan Galloway, it was a big part of the reason Chuba was so successful, getting through the trenches there. So definitely important to watch out for and see how the offensive line progresses without him.
And I think the big thing also we have to keep in mind, not only do you lose that experience, but the depth that now gets impacted by this. We saw last year, the past couple of years, honestly, when one or two guys go down with injury, you see sometimes a little dip, or just trying to shift people around, trying to figure out, because I think Bryce Bray at one point last year played almost every single position along the line except for center. So that's, I think, the biggest thing going forward is how that's going to impact the depth and the 2 deep to 3 deep now along that offensive line.
Well, would you consider the offensive line for Oklahoma State football now just a big question mark of where everyone else is going to end up playing?
It already was probably the biggest question mark for me because, I know Ry Schneider's a decent center, but you lost your a 4-year starter at center. You lost some other guys to graduation, so the 2 deep was already going to be thin, and then you lose a guy like Dylan Galloway who has that experience as well. Because that's the thing we got to keep in mind is the health of your quarterback. We found out last year can be a question mark at times. So are they going to be able to keep him healthy, that offensive line? Keep Spencer Sanders healthy enough to where he doesn't get banged up late in the season. You end up having to go to likely a true freshman quarterback.
Yeah, and then mid-season or anything like that, we don't know how that would shake out. So it's going to be interesting to watch and keep an eye on that offensive line for Oklahoma State as we gear up for the season here, hopefully pretty shortly. Let's look at Texas A&M. Texas A&M punished. But, Jason, I know when they're punished for infractions regarding their head coach and recruiting issues and all of that, I already know that you are not a fan of the punishments that were handed down to Texas A&M. Probably not enough, right?
I believe the phrase they used that is that the head coach showed a lack of institutional control, and obviously was doing this to gain a competitive advantage, both head coach and assistant coach, and there's no postseason ban. For Oklahoma State basketball fans, doesn't that seem a little hinky?
Yeah.
The fact that an assistant coach who is only doing things for personal financial gain ultimately creates a 1-year postseason ban for the basketball program, but a Power 5 football program who willingly and knowingly cheated both head coach and assistant coaches to get a competitive advantage don't get a postseason ban. I find a huge flaw in that.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, they leveled these punishments, these penalties, I should say, as level 2 instead of level 1. 1 year probation, a $5,000 fine, a reduction in football visits by 17 days during this upcoming season or this next year. And I mean, that's really the brunt of it. You go down for a few more recruiting, penalties, but that's pretty much it. I mean, it really is kind of a slap on the wrist for a situation that seems a little bit more egregious than what happened at Oklahoma State. I think we can both agree on that too. But I don't know. I mean, Texas A&M, SEC football. I mean, are we too? Can we look at that?
It's exactly what it is.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, I think that's too glaring to not mention that.
Yeah, I think, SEC maybe, but I think the big thing is football. The fact that it's football is what makes me take pause and say, okay, this is why it was just slapping the wrist, where basketball, it was we're going to give a postseason ban. And because that's the thing is, I think because that's the thing, Texas A&M isn't Alabama, LSU. They're no one as nearly as high up as that, but I mean, they do get a lot of money in regards to donors and whatnot, and especially right now with the current pandemic, you don't want to give a postseason ban to a program that relies so heavily on their donors. I want to say they might even be number 1 or number 2 in the country. So I'm not surprised. It's just I think we talked about it with OSU when they got levied those punishments. Consistency from the NCAA, and this to me shows that the inconsistency goes from sport to sport as well.
Yeah, and to me, this is a big reason why a lot of people just don't take the NCAA seriously anymore, because of that lack of consistency across all sports. And it seems that the bigger your name or the bigger your conference, the better chance you have of getting away with some of this. We've said this before, the punishments that or the penalties that occurred against Texas A&M. Well, Jimbo Fisher was apparently not aware of the 7 extra hours of practice going on during the weeks that was allowed in 2018, and then also contacting a recruit in his high school period during a non-contact period. But yeah, do you? I mean, I don't buy that for a second, especially that first part.
Right. Well, first off, as Gundy has said in the past, as the head man of a program, you know what's going on. You know what's going on. So to say that, well, I didn't know my team was getting 7 hours extra of practice, or that I'm not supposed to be talking to a junior, it's total BS.
Yeah. So we're just supposed to expect that Jimbo Fisher was walking around, and we came to a huge surprise that 7 extra hours of practice was going on. He had no idea. I mean, that's the problem too. Is like the NCAA, like, we are not stupid people. I mean, there are plenty of stupid people, but the ones out here, we're sitting here talking about this, like that's what it comes off to me as, that they think that everyone's so naive and is going to believe this. Nah, this is crap. I mean, it really is. Texas A&M is another situation here where they clearly violated and probably could have been pushed to level 1 at some factor here. And again, we go back to the guidelines, or do the guidelines, in the NCAA, well, we can look at them, level 2, level 1, whatever. But some of these you're telling me couldn't be up to level 1 if we're being honest. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous to me that, again, we see a situation like an SEC football team that's going to get basically a free pass. I mean, you're a probation, big whoop.
Well, and that's the thing. I was looking at, if I read it right, it was multiple people that were basically recruiting a junior before the end of a season.
It was,
and it was both the head coach and an assistant. So I mean, this isn't and for Jimbo to say, well, I didn't know. You've been a college football coach for 10, 15 years or more. You've won a national championship, and you didn't think, oh, maybe I shouldn't be talking to a junior in high school yet.
It's insane, and then that's the thing is when you get the response like, well, I just wasn't aware, and then that's just okay with the NCAA to not levy more punishments. I mean, really, it blows my mind.
It's honestly, it's ignorance from both parties.
Oh, it absolutely is. 100%. 100%. It doesn't make Jimbo look good, that's for sure. It doesn't make Texas A&M look good, and it definitely makes the NCAA look even worse than they did, a day ago, which was pretty bad. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Jimmie Tramel is going to join us from the Tulsa World. That's next on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
I don't wanna wait for our life to be over. You have it, but you take it how you left it. This is give and take. Take your side, take me under. I wanna know, but you show me what I'm missing. In the play.
Welcome back to the Afternoon Sports Drive here on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Jason Elmquist with you on Thursday. Thanks for hanging out with us a little bit. Joining us now from the Tulsa World is Jimmie Tramel, sports pop culture for Tulsa World. Jimmy, thanks for joining us. And hey, it has been one heck of a week, and will continue on Saturday for Oklahoma State all over ESPN.
Yeah, it seems like it's almost been the co-op channel for OSU this week.
It really does, Eddie. And then we had the start the week, and then we had Finding Big Country last night. And the Stillwater Stars will play on Saturday on ESPN. So it's definitely been a lot of orange on ESPN, and will continue to be. First of all, let's look at the Eddie film here. I know that it's been a few days, and everyone's kind of gotten to put their takes out there and opinions on how it was. What was your initial reaction after watching it?
Well, early on, even in the very first of it, you couldn't help but get choked up a little, or get all the feels, as they say, and having covered a lot of those teams, And thinking you know quite a bit or you know it all, you find out you really don't. I thought it was really informative and well done, and it wasn't a puff piece or a PR piece. It was warts and all, and there were things I heard in there that shocked me, but I also came out of the whole thing with a greater appreciation for Eddie Sutton, for Sean Sutton, and maybe especially for Patsy Sutton and Trina.
Yeah, they both really were, and that's the thing. I told Chris Hunt when he was on our show earlier this week, director, I said that he did a great job of portraying Patsy. I mean, even without getting any actual audio and quotes and stuff from her, the pictures and then the talk of how she kept everything together. I mean, it's fantastic.
Can you imagine the work that went into that thing? Because I know just Sean Sutton sat down 3 times for 3 hours each, which math is not my strong point, but that's 9 hours of just Sean sitting down for interviews for that. And to cut that down to whatever the running time was for everybody they talked to, had to have been a monumental task, and those guys did a great job.
Yeah, that's what I told Chris. I said, you must have a ton of footage just sitting around that you weren't able to use. He's like, oh, you know it. They could have made a Michael Jordan 10-parter probably with everything that they ended up having. So it was definitely a ton of work put into it. And I told Chris, from the top to the bottom, you really can't find a lot of flaws with anything going on there. I mean, the construction development, I said the score was fantastic, really just very well done. I think it blew away a lot of people with their expectations in terms of, maybe you see it and you go, wow, it's just another sports documentary. I think this one kind of blew it out of the water with the production.
Yeah, and if I had, it's not a criticism, but I wish we would have heard more of Eddie's voice, but I understand he was so late in life that we couldn't hear more of Eddie's voice almost. So I want to throw out, and like I said, it's not a criticism at all because it was great. But I say that to recommend another Eddie project. If you want to hear Eddie Sutton tell his story in his voice, go to a website called voicesofoklahoma.com. And a radio legend in Oklahoma, John Erling, interviewed Eddie a few years ago about his whole life. And the whole audio of the interview is posted on voicesofoklahoma.com.
Wow.
And if you don't want to hear Eddie's voice and you just want to read it, you can click on transcript and read it all. But it's pretty fascinating.
Hey, Jimmy, it's Jason Elvis here, and obviously part of the reason we wanted to get you on is to kind of lend a voice to Eddie Sutton and whatnot, since he hasn't been able to. How long? I'm trying to remember. How long did you cover Oklahoma State basketball? How far back does your time with Eddie go?
Almost to the start. I know Eddie came on in 89, 90, and at that time the World did not have beat writers for a school. We had 4 or 5 guys, and we covered Oklahoma State, Arkansas, Tulsa, Oral Roberts, OU, and you would just rotate those guys to a different school, like every game, every night. And then in about 95, we decided, hey, it's better off to assign one guy to one school where you get better contacts and network better and all those sort of things. But I had my fair share of OSU prior to 1995, and then I was the beat writer for several chunks of years from 1995 through 2006 and beyond, which was Eddie and Sean, the changeover.
And obviously, if the thing I've enjoyed is over the past couple months, some of the stories that you've shared on Twitter, again at Jimmie Tramel. Make sure to follow him because you've talked about some of your stories with Eddie, whether it was your personal interactions or I remember the one that I loved the most was you talking about him and President Clinton going golfing. You want to share that with our listeners?
Well, after Eddie passed, and another reason I had to talk about Eddie with Sean, Sean started sending me, pictures he thought were interesting. And one that he thought was interesting was of President Clinton playing golf with Eddie. And there's a funny story that goes along with that, is that, as you can imagine, there were Secret Service people everywhere when they were playing golf, to get rid of the bad guys. President Clinton, duck hooks a shot over in the weeds, and like all 16 Secret Service guys go and help Bill Clinton look for his ball. 2 holes later, Eddie hits a bad shot. It goes in the weeds. None of the Secret Service guys go look for his ball. So he just tells the president, like, hey, nice hospitality you got here, President. But they go way back all the way to Arkansas. Obviously Eddie was more famous than Bill Clinton at one point because he was the basketball coach at Arkansas, and Bill Clinton was just teaching law at the university.
Okay. Now, I remember also seeing I believe it was a tweet a while back where you shared a letter, I believe it was, when your son was born that Eddie sent to you and whatnot. I guess talk about Eddie on maybe on a more personal level, because everyone hears about the coach and whatnot, and you had some great personal interactions with him.
Yeah, and thank you for asking. And you know what? Even though I had personal interaction with him, the more stories you hear, I was one of like 1 million people that had personal interactions with him, because I think he made it personal for a lot of people. When my son was born, like you mentioned, he sent a little pair of Nike shoes, baby shoes, autographed by Eddie, which is a really nice touch. But maybe my favorite story of Eddie that's a personal level is I took my dad with me to an OSU game at Baylor. My dad could care less about basketball. He thinks the game should last 1 minute because the team that shoots last and scores normally wins anyway, so why play 40 minutes? Just play 1 minute and get it over with. But my dad went with me to Baylor. As you know, they have kind of a night before shoot-around practice. So me and my dad go to the night before shoot-around practice in Waco, and we're sitting there watching practice, and Eddie comes over, and he thanks me for taking my dad to the shoot-around. I mean, and this is a legendary coach toward the end of his career. Who does that? But Eddie does, and he came over and said, hey, thank you very much for bringing your dad to this practice. Go figure.
Now, I've got to ask, because I watched both documentaries this week, and there was I believe it's your cousin, Barry, on both of them. Yeah. I've got to ask, does he always wear the glasses that low?
Well, he is my grandfather. No, I'm kidding. He's not my grandfather. He's a first cousin. I don't know. That's an interesting question. Now I've got to criticize his fashion statement there with the low glasses.
Well, and talk about that connection. Obviously, we us in the media across Oklahoma understand, Tramel and Ogles and stuff like that, and obviously the connection that you guys have with names like Gundy or Sutton and stuff like that. How is that? Do you feel meshed over the years? Just your guys' ability, especially you and Barry, to be able to carry on and tell these stories of some of these great athletic families that have come through Oklahoma.
Well, I'm really glad to have Barry as a cousin, as a relative, because I think he's one of the finer riders this state has ever seen. I think if you did the Mount Rushmore of sports riders in this state, you'd put, and we're biased based on which half of the state we live in and whether we live in the middle or anywhere else, but you put Bill Connors, who hired me and was a great columnist of the Tulsa World, you put him on the Rushmore. And I think you put Barry on that Rushmore too, because he's been the voice of Oklahoma City sports since 1990s, and we're getting up a few years past that now. But it was really coincidental that we both went into the business, because I grew up on the eastern half of the state, he grew up on the western half of the state, and we just both happened to go into the same profession. But extremely talented rider, and I think what makes him a great rider is he gets the Mayberry into it. And by that, I mean, in a way, Barry is still Andy Griffith's show. And I think he brings the Mayberry out in people.
That's a pretty interesting way of putting it. I could see that. Jimmie Tramel joining us here on the afternoon sports drive from the Tulsa World. Jimmie, I think one of the most emotional and touching parts of that documentary to me, and I knew it was going to be going in, was the plane crash footage and then everything involving that. I want you to speak to a little bit, if you can, to how strong it really, was, how tough it was for Eddie Sutton to be as strong as he was when it came to, calling all the families of the victims and then speaking in front of all those people like the way that he did. I can't imagine the strength it would take to overcome and to be a leader, or in a sense, at a time like that.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable because you can't fathom how to handle that kind of situation. And for us publicly to see it, we didn't see what went on behind closed doors, but publicly we saw him never crack. I mean, he was, as other people have said, he was a rock. And the way he handled that was unbelievable. And you couldn't help but respect him for the way he handled it. And what you wonder is, once you're the rock for everybody else, on the inside, what's going on? Who's helping the guy who's the rock for everybody else? And, man, I remember the morning after the crash, because it's your job. I drove to Stillwater, go to the basketball office, and, obviously they don't want media running around the basketball office when they got a big tragedy to deal with, and just don't want visitors. And before they ran us all out, which they should have, Eddie came to me and whispered in my ear. He said, "We lost some good men," and I thought that was, and when Eddie died, we lost a good man.
Yeah, no question about that. Were you at the Missouri OSU game after the plane crash?
That was one of the most unbelievable atmospheres you're ever going to see at any ball game. I mean, everybody in that arena, was just hanging on everything that happened in that game. So many games really just mean nothing. I mean, you guys have been around enough games. What's at stake in most games is, who wins, who loses.
Sure.
There was a lot more at stake in that game, and on kind of the same degree, when the Cowgirls won the NIT after their plane crash, it was kind of the same feeling when they cut those nets down.
Yeah, the atmosphere just from footage, looked truly incredible, and especially with everything going on. I thought that Doug Gottlieb had one of the stronger lines throughout the entire film, and that was that Eddie saved OSU athletics. Would you agree with that statement?
I think that's true. If you go back and research what shape the university was in athletically when Eddie got there, football was on probation, not winning many games. Wrestling was just getting ready to go on NCAA probation. Coach was getting ready to be fired. Athletic department, something like $2.2 million in debt. And so the athletic department had nothing going on. They were still winning, championships in many sports and that sort of thing. But as far as paying the bills, that wasn't happening. And so Eddie Sutton, when he came to town, kind of galvanized a basketball fan base that had kind of gone away. OSU had two other chances to hire Eddie Sutton and didn't do it. Well, I shouldn't say two. I know one in 1973. He wanted the job, and they hired an outsider from Kentucky named Guy Strong, who didn't last very long. So this was really a chance to bring in one of Iba's guys, get all the old Cowboys on board again, and here you go.
Yeah, I know Chris Hunt, when he was on the other day with us, was really proud of that footage he found of Mr. Iba sitting alone there in the arena and checking everything out. It was really cool scene there, and the connection was fantastic. I know you've kind of spoken a little bit here about Sean in the film, but he was obviously extremely raw, extremely vulnerable, and let it all hang out in that film, and I think that's what made it so powerful too. But with Sean, I think one of the most important and impactful statements that came out of that film when Eddie said that Sean was the best coach he ever had. Would you agree with that?
He said that before,
Yeah.
And keep in mind that Bill Self was his assistant too in the early years. I think Bill was here maybe 2 or 3 years. In fact, Bill Self was the only other candidate to interview for the job when Eddie Sutton got it. And Bill Self was only 26 years old at the time, but was still kind of a popular choice, being an alum. and that sort of thing. And I believe Bill Self was told, like, no matter who we hire, even if you don't get the job, you will stay for the next coach, which is not always the best situation for a new coach because you want to hire your own guys. But but I think Sean, from a basketball standpoint, is one of the brightest guys around. So the fact that Eddie would say that, shocks me zero. And I never knew about the lingering issues. I didn't know that they ever existed with Sean and his dad, that his dad was kind of mean to him at Kentucky and that sort of thing. So I had no idea Sean was working out those issues also. That was one of the real eye-opening things about the documentary.
And that was one thing I mentioned to Chris Hunt when we had him on, that when I got to Stillwater 10 years ago, there was a lot of animosity from a lot of OSU fans towards Sean as well. Do you hope, as somebody who covered ultimately both Suttons, that the fan base now sees what exactly he was kind of the demons that he was dealing with, and maybe rethink their thought process of what happened in those years?
It was almost a no-win situation for Sean to come in and follow his dad, because and I think they lost first-round NIT games each of his 2 seasons as head coach, and then also the year he was the interim coach at the end of the season. But to come into that situation, follow your dad, he probably felt a lot of pressure, from the get-go. And I think as time passes, people will come to appreciate Sean Sutton a lot more. Not just for his brief time as a head coach, but he was really Eddie's lieutenant during all those great years. I mean, geez, how long was Sean in the system under Eddie? I know he went to Ole Miss for like 1 or 2 years. He wasn't at Ole Miss very long because he came back with his dad. But I don't think Eddie would have had the exact same success at OSU that he would have had if Sean had not been by his side.
Yeah. Well, then obviously we had another documentary that we got to watch, the Finding Big Country. How going back to the mid '90s when they land him again out of a small, very small community in eastern Oklahoma. How big was that for the state, but then also for the program, to see what type of success he ultimately was able to kind of help push that program forward?
And it was amazing. He was not a can't miss blue chip 5-star prospect. I mean, here's the story that was told to me was that the first time OSU ever scouted Bryant Reeves, they sent 2 guys down to Gans. It was Bill Self and John Phillips, and there were not enough guys. Bill Self mentioned this in the Eddie documentary. There were not enough guys to play a 5-on-5 game to evaluate Big Country. Okay. So they try to get enough guys together to play at least 3-on-3. They hope, enough bodies. And so it was like these redheaded twins that they located, and they still needed a body. And so Big Country's dad goes and plays in the evaluation game, in the 2-on-2 or 3-on-3 game. And it was told to me that at that time, Big Country's dad outplayed Big Country. And so those guys left there with kind of a split decision, like, do we want to recruit this guy? Can he make it at the college level? And I think Self definitely thought that he could, and it turned out that he was right, because it's one of the all-time, bloom into something great stories, because he went from being, here's a guy we might want to redshirt his first year at OSU, to a starter on a Sweet 16 team that otherwise was all seniors. And then, and when he's a senior, he goes to the Final Four. Just one of the all-time Cinderella stories.
Jimmie, could you imagine if your dad was the one that ultimately was the reason you weren't able to get into a college program?
Oh, maybe he was a player. I mean, and I think he played like it was told to me he wore business shoes or boots to that tryout, his dad, and then played either barefoot or in socks in that 2-on-2 or 3-on-3 game.
Wow.
Now, obviously, everyone, at least for me, thinks about Big Country breaking the backboard at that Final Four. Were you there, or what do you remember of the reaction following that news?
I was not in Seattle, but I do remember it was such huge news. I was lucky enough to be up in New York when they clinched the trip to the Final Four because, as fate would have it, Tulsa and OSU were sent to the same regional, and so we had a flock of guys there to watch that stuff. And to watch that group beat, Wake Forest, UMass with Tim Duncan and Marcus Camby and all those guys, and get to the Final Four was just unbelievable. And I know we haven't mentioned Randy Rutherford yet, but Randy Rutherford was a great player at OSU. And in fact, I think there was one game where Big Country didn't bring his A game or was kind of the focus of the defense and did not score at Kansas, and Randy Rutherford scored 45 points. I mean, who scores 45 against Kansas?
Yeah, not very many people. That's definitely impressive. Jimmie Tramel joining us here on the afternoon sports drive from the Tulsa World. Jimmy, let's look ahead a little bit to this season here in Oklahoma State. In your best estimation or best opinion here, how normal of a college football season are we in for?
I don't think we're in for a normal season at all. And I don't mean to be Mr. Pessimist guy, but I just hope we have a season. Mm-hmm. I hope, number one, I want people to be safe. And number two, I want us to have the thing we love the most in Oklahoma, which is our sports. But I don't want it if people are not going to be safe. People need to be safe.
So fans in the stands and kind of alluded to it there. Do you see that happening either at all or limited capacity?
I think as long as you social distance and have space people out and be smart, I think you could have fans at the stands. I think if you have games without any fans at all, I think so much is lost. I'm not sure if you're even going down the right road.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best assessment for it. It definitely could happen, and in some way I completely agree with you there. Jimmie Tramel joining us here on the Afternoon Sports Drive from the Tulsa World. Again, you can follow him on Twitter at Jimmie Tramel. Thank you so much, Jimmy, for taking some time out of your day. Have a great 4th of July, man.
Try to behave, man.
Yeah, we will do our best. Thanks. That's Jimmie Tramel coming on the Afternoon Sports Drive. He is, as Jason kind of said there, he's been, Oklahoma State and covered Oklahoma sports for a long time. I've been to a lot of classic moments and been a part of them as well, covering them and everything. He does a lot of pop culture now, too, at the Tulsa World. Isn't that right, Jason?
Yeah, and that
I think we might have lost him there. Jason's on the tie line drive. There he's back. Jason, you back with us?
Yeah, I know there's a delay. I just want to mention one of the first instances I met with Jimmy covering OSU athletics. The biggest thing was he always wore socks that were either Superman or Batman and stuff like that. So that always became my thing with him. Is every time I'd see him, is like, all right, you got to show me the socks. So he's kind of, I think, loving and living. He's in that position right now with the Tulsa World where he's getting to cover something he just absolutely is passionate about. So if you are one of those who loves the Comic-Con scenes and stuff like that, definitely give him a follow. But also, again, like I said earlier, he's been sharing a lot of Eddie Sutton stories of late as well.
Yeah, a lot of people have found some classics that they've brought up after the Eddie film, and he's definitely been a part of that. When we come back here on the Afternoon Sports Drive, Sports Illustrated ran a story about the upcoming basketball season, how the summers went for the Big 12 teams, and ranked them according to how these summers have gone so far with everything involved. And there are a lot of people fired up about where Oklahoma State landed on this list, including head coach Mike Boynton. We'll discuss all about that next.
It's been a too long time with no peace of mind. I'm ready for the times to get better. I've got to tell you, I've been racking my brain, hoping to find a way out. I've had enough.
Welcome back. Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler, Jason Elmquist with you on Thursday, wrapping up hour number 1 here on 1020 AM, 1580 AM, 93.1 FM, and 105.1 FM. Triple Play Sports Radio app. There has been a lot of people laughing and or hysterically because it's just laughable, or just not happy with the recent SI publication where they ranked their Big 12 basketball teams here, power rankings for the offseason. Jason, when I see where Oklahoma State lands on here, a lot of me goes, okay, because really? But it's not just because of the team they have coming in, but some of the teams that are listed ahead. Oklahoma State, according to Sports Illustrated, sitting at the 8th best with the power rankings in this offseason. Ahead of them, at number 1, Baylor, 2, Kansas, 3, Texas Tech, 4, Texas, 5, West Virginia, 6, Oklahoma, 7, Iowa State. And Oklahoma State sits at 8th. What was your reaction to that?
I can see where they're going with it. And here's the thing, if I'm Oklahoma State fans right now, and if that does shake out, that may not necessarily be a bad thing, because that may also be a sign of how good that SI is looking at this Big 12 conference looking this upcoming year, because all things considered, because we also have to keep in mind, I believe this came out after you and I ended up declaring that he was transferring. I think that plays a little bit of a factor we have to keep in mind, because he was such a dominant defensive presence. Sure. But it's funny because the headline literally literally leads Cade Cunningham, and leads the highlights to the Big 12 this upcoming season should be fun. And then it's like, so you're saying he may be the best player in the conference, but you're also saying then that they're not good enough to finish any better than 8th. What is it? I mean, and again, we've seen instances before where one of the best players in a sport, especially in basketball, isn't enough to make this a NCAA type team. But there were already a team in my mind, that was one or two talents like him away from being an NCAA quality team. Again, I think last year they would have been if Isaac Likely wouldn't have come down sick with I believe it was mono. He was sidelined for an entire month and then never was really back fully conditioned until mid to late February. So I think with those two guys and some other talented incoming freshmen, I can see them. If I were to power rank right now, I wouldn't have them much higher. I might say that I could see them finishing 6th because of 1 through 5. I think is actually a pretty loaded run in the Big 12.
I was about to say I would push them to 5 or 6 probably. I don't really agree with Texas Tech sitting at number 3 because they did lose their top 2 scorers from last season. Texas as well at number 4. I mean, Shaka Smart right now to me is a big question mark. So I don't necessarily agree with 3 and 4 there in that order.
I think the thing that, because we, it's Tom and I will always joke how we look at, through orange glasses, we see what OSU has coming in and don't necessarily look across the board. Well, Texas Tech has a guy, what we talk about, Cade Cunningham is projected to be number 1 overall next year. Texas Tech has a kid who's projected to be a top 15 draft pick next year too, coming in.
Yeah, no, they've got a lot of good talent coming in, that's for sure.
Right, so they've got I think they're actually their freshman class is ranked higher, I believe, than Oklahoma State's, and then obviously a couple of guys lingering that have some experience. So I understand, especially with the coach that you have, you're still just 2 years removed from a run to the title game. I think it makes sense to me of why I would put them at 3 right now, because they do have that experience. Because here's the thing, I would definitely put them ahead of Texas. And again, that's a team I would consider maybe putting OSU ahead of as well. Yeah. I just don't know what Texas has coming in freshman wise. But even when they had top freshmen coming in, they still haven't been producing under Shaka Smart. So that's where I would probably say I would max out Oklahoma State right now before getting to see what Cade Cunningham can do, what they can do having both him and Isaac Likely on the court at the same time. I'd probably have them capping out at 5.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. And at the end of the piece, stating that if Cade Cunningham is ultimately a one-man show, then it could be a long year in Stillwater. I just don't see that being the case. I mean, I think you're going to obviously rely on him for a hefty amount of your points probably at least start off the season too. But I think this team is they're going to work and get and gel together pretty quickly. I like Matthew Alexander Moncrief. I think he's a little underlooked right now by some of these rankings as well, because we talk about he's a Canadian Player of the Year. People go, oh, Canada basketball. No, I think he's really got what it takes to be a solid number 2 there in that spot. So I think that it's definitely motivation for Oklahoma State, as if they needed much more with everything else going on in OSU basketball. Coach Mike Boynton quote tweeted the article and said, "Pardon me, I had to laugh at that," with a laughing face emoji. So he's obviously thinking that's a pretty unfair ranking.
And that's the thing. I remember talking with Tom about this on air, that we have to be careful when they try to rank Canadian or honestly just anyone outside the United States. We already should be more, holding your breath when it comes to rankings anyway. But I go back to Chuba Hubbard. He was a Canadian running back, and I believe he was the 25th ranked running back in his high school class. And funny enough, he and actually Jonathan Taylor right there with him were ranked like 24th and 25th, and all the guys in front of Chuba Hubbard and just outside of him never really panned out, except for maybe one or two guys who were your 5 stars that everyone knew of. So it's almost like they don't necessarily have a feel yet for, or even send enough people up to properly analyze the Canadian athletes and whatnot right now. So I don't know. I considering he's the best out of that country, I'm hopeful that he brings something good, because the last guy I remember coming out of Canada that was the best Canadian was Andrew Wiggins, who went on to have a heck of a career in 1 year at KU.
Yeah, it's definitely something that you have to, in the off-season rankings, everybody can just kind of shake their heads a little bit. You never really know, especially with basketball. So that could change before it's all said and done. When we come back in hour number 2, Tom Dorado is going to join us. Brendan Manzer is going to come on at 4:20, talk about the basketball tournament. When we come back, we're going to start off hour number 2 with an interesting proposal that looks like it might actually gain some traction in the NFL regarding this upcoming season, and I'm going to ask Tom Dorado and Jason Elmquist if they would do what the NFL wants them to do in order to attend a game. That's next on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Levitating off the blacktop. Used to struggle getting started, now I can't stop. Used to be the quiet kid in the sandbox, now it's hands up every time that your man rocks. They ought to stop me coming in again. You mad? You thought we were synonyms? Too bad, that's the water you're getting in. You're too fat for the sharks that you're swimming in. From where I'm sitting, contenders are looking like fruit spinning around in the blender. Hardly a snack when I'm here looking.
Welcome back, Afternoon Sports Drive, hour number 2 on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Tom Dorado's in studio as we are. This is Friday here at Triple Play Sports Radio.
It is a Friday on a Thursday.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Always a fan. I enjoy those, especially with July 4th. I mean, this is the best weekend to have it. So definitely looking forward to that. And we'll talk a little bit of TCL here. They lost game 2, Texas Collegiate League yesterday. The Drillers. They go now 1-1. Cade Cabnis 1 for 3 RBI single. Really your main Oklahoma State representation. The pitching was good and bad. The walks were tough. 8 walks with 5 pitchers. 19 strikeouts.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes 19 strikeouts will overcome some ills.
Yeah.
But 8 free baseball, 8 walks. You're putting guys on, don't have to do anything. You put them in scoring position. It doesn't take but a couple of 2-3 hits to mount a rally, and I think it sounds like that's what they did. But, Tom was, having talked to Tom, I mean, he was being a pitching coach. I mean, pitching's what it's all about on any level. If you got guys who can hum it and get guys out, you can make up an offense and still win some games. But if you got guys who keep the runs off the board, but apparently the walks were a little too hard to overcome. And keep in mind, I know Osmond had a great outing. And this guy from Florida, I guess he had a great outing against the Drillers. But at the same time, they haven't done a whole lot in 2 months. So, that would be like the first outing of the baseball season for college, where they're not near as good as they're going to be. So, but yet, having said all that, pitching is still ahead of the offense.
Yeah, that's what Bryce said today too when he was on Robert's show.
Sure they are.
Yeah. It's gonna take a lot of work for these hitters to get on right now. So
and you
understandably,
can run a lot of pitchers out there.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, they wrap up the series tonight. 7:05. I'm planning on being there. Hopefully the rain stays away for the most part. I saw last that they have 200 tickets available as of a couple hours. That's it. That's all they have left. So it's
of the 1,800.
Yeah, of all that they were going to have there. So they're planning on selling out for the fireworks. Yep, and everything. So
you're going to hit that on the way.
Yeah, hit it on the way back into Missouri.
I got you.
Yeah, so
good idea.
Live sports, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
I need to see some live sports.
I'll be interested in seeing how this. Keep in mind these are college rosters.
Yep.
And usually the third game of a weekend series is kind of a free-for-all.
Mm-hmm. You never know.
You're not throwing the aces out there. You pretty much used your first two pitchers in the 1-2 holes. So I don't know what they got in the third hole. I think this kid from Vian the pitches for OU might be the starter tonight. But usually that third game is kind of a free-for-all. So we may see a 10-9 type of game tonight.
Yeah, that's fine. Offense is fun. I enjoy it. Hey, the NFL is considering something that I've said since the start of all this. It's considering having fans sign waivers to come into stadiums this season when they're, it's all going to be based on region of how many fans are allowed to have in each stadium. It's going to differ, that's for sure. It's not going to be the same across the board. But I think this is going to be something that takes place officially. I'll probably hear word not too long that actually does happen. I told you, I said, they did the same thing at the Trump rally, and it's kind of like you were saying, in things outside of colleges and things that makes more sense in pro sports, you can do that type of thing. My question to you would be, if it meant, let's say you really wanted to go to an NFL game, if you just had to go see the Giants lose, would you want, or would you be able to get yourself to sign a waiver and be like, I'm okay with that, and then go in and watch?
I probably wouldn't.
Okay.
My feelings toward the NFL probably color that answer right there. I'm sure. I'm not a big NFL guy, but you can do that. I think we talked during the break. I think you can do that with pro sports because the pro followings, fans are pretty much, they're not woven into the fabric of the actual program itself. They may be crazy on game day and game night. But, they go back to their jobs after the game's over, and they come back. I think optically that would not be a good thing for colleges, only because the people, for the most part, not everybody, but for the most part, the higher percentage of your football crowd, say at Oklahoma State. I mean, these are people who have been with the program for years and are just dedicated to the fabric of the program, season ticket holders for a long, long time. I don't think there's anything illegal about it, but I think optically, Patrick, it probably wouldn't send a great message if you got to sign a waiver, basically saying, look, if you get it, tough luck, it's on you. You don't sue us. If you get it, you're getting it at your own risk.
Yeah,
I'm not sure that's the optics that I would like to have on a college level.
The optics may not look great, but I think that what they could do is say, look, this is an unprecedented time. We're going to change things up a little bit. This isn't something that we plan on having to do forever, but in these different times, we're able to bend things a little bit, change things, and if that means saying, look, we want fans, we want you to be here, and if you're willing to come, that's fine, but you just got to make sure not to sue the university if you come down with coronavirus. I mean, because there would be people that would, right?
Well, sure. There'd be a percentage that are just would feast on it. Yeah. I mean, can't wait. Give me anything. I just want to come watch and play.
Yeah.
But I do think overall you would have to. This is my opinion. You have to treat your fan base and the pros a little different than you do in college, because the college fan base, for the most part, is not just kind of a professional group of people that, we're going to be crazy on game day, and then after that we're going to go work and do our job and come back the next day. Colleges, you got people who are connected to the university for the most part every day of the week and every week of the year. And while I agree, there'd be some who would say, I don't care, give it to me, I'll sign it. I don't care what, I'm going. I agree. But there would also be
some that would sue, right?
But I don't know. Have we heard of a suit yet?
I haven't. One that comes to mind. But I mean, I'm saying like if they did say 50% of you guys can come in, and they don't make them sign a waiver, well, somebody comes down with the coronavirus. Now, I mean, they might sue, but how can they prove it? That's the thing.
But you might have to prove that I wore my mask the whole game.
Yeah.
I sat 6 feet away from somebody, and I don't know how you would do that.
I don't either.
I mean, now we're really getting down to the
I don't know how you would.
Hairs, but as long as there's a lawyer around, there could be a lawsuit, right? So, I guess in theory you're right, and I suppose they could have waivers to sign, but this is just me speaking. I just think the optics and the looks of making college fans sign a waiver, because in their minds what the school is saying is, we want you to come, but you know what? You come at your own risk. If you get it, that's the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, but don't call us. Because you knew the effects if you came in. I don't think that's the feeling that you want to generate with your college fans in general. Now you got some who will come, like I said, they don't care what. Give me it, sign it, I'm coming. I don't care.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think you're dealing with people who might resent that a little bit, saying, well, you don't really care about our safety. All you care about is the fact that you're not liable. And I wasn't even thinking of suing you, but now I might be because you're giving me this thing to sign.
They might be able to find a way around it by, let's say that they mandate masks, and then they'd say, well,
Stillwater could mandate masks,
right, exactly.
Oklahoma State would have to.
And then say that the university does, and they say, you had to have a mask on. It's not our problem.
Well, at least to come through the gate.
Yeah, right. And they'll probably do the temperature checks. I would have to think, if I were to bet on what's going to happen, I'd say there's going to be some form of fans, a number of fans, but there will be masks required and temperatures checked. And the problem that we've heard from sources around here too, and this is nothing new, but policing the bathroom lines and the concession stand lines and all that stuff.
You're going to have mask police?
That's going to be the thing. I don't know how you do it.
And what do you do when you find, Patrick? Hey, I can't waive this another 2 minutes. So you pull it. Well, now a policeman walks up or a security guard
They're
walks
kick
up
you out?
and says, "You should have that on, son. So you have to leave." I mean, what do you do? Do you create more ill will that way than you would goodwill when you're having people come?
I think you do, because, like you said, we've already seen the issues with the mask or no mask thing in public places here in Stillwater, but also it's been all over the country. And the bad part is it's become a political issue, believe it or not. But that's the thing is, when you look at wanting to have fans, you can, that's where I say we're going to have them, because you can social distance fans, at least by saying we're going to have this percentage in a stadium that fills this percentage, right? So you logistically could say we're going to put fewer in here, that way they do have the opportunity to social distance. Now, we can't guarantee that we're going to be able to catch everything. We're going to do our best, but our eyes are only so
Once
good.
Again, are you going to be the person that comes down and says, hey, you're 5 feet away from this, so you need to move another foot over?
And that's the thing is they're going to have. Students aren't going to listen. Okay, let's. If you allow students into the stadiums, they're not going to wear masks. They're not going to social distance. I think that's being taken into effect as well right now, and taken into consideration is, we're not going to be able to stop that at all. And then people are going to have to realize too, when we get students back, we're going to see a lot more cases. That's going to be a part of it too. So I that's why people are like, are we really going to have a season? Yeah, we're going to have a season. I think that's something that's going to happen. It's just on time, traditional. Now, I can't guarantee any of that, but I do think we're still going to have football at some point. And then tying it back to the NFL, yes, the NFL has it a little easier because they probably can say the same thing. Like for instance in Green Bay, when they say, look, if guy Lambeau leaps into you and you fall down and hurt your back, not our problem, right? So they can kind of get away with that stuff a little bit more. But I think I would do it. If it had been going into a Chiefs game, I'd sign a waiver. I'd be fine. Now, I get that people's, your age and condition might change that a little bit too. Mm-hmm. But That's why I guess if you're a college sports, you too would love the NFL to be playing right now, so you could take a look at how this would work, right?
Yeah, and I think we could probably have it putting the cart before the horse in the fact that, we don't know in the next 4 or 5 weeks what is going to happen numbers-wise within the football community.
Oh, we don't know the next day.
It's been running through 1,000 times, but if you don't have enough, if you got to quarantine players when you're trying to practice, or much less have to go play, this is going to be an uneven season to begin with. I mean, what are the odds that it could start and finish without a bump? I mean, probably astronomically against that happening. So I don't know. I mean, I used to think it was going to just come off without a hitch. I don't know what these numbers are going to provide. I don't know what each state's going to have to come up with. You're at the mercy really of the state government as to what they mandate, from masks to whether you go out or not, where you go, what you can do. So I don't know. I think the numbers are going to dictate that. Right now, I think the numbers from football teams are probably what you would expect when you have 100 people come back and you have 14 positive.
How about Lincoln Riley with his comments earlier saying we got to wait? They wait and then they get 14 positive.
Well,
Same thing.
I don't know that he was. I didn't read into his comment that we're going to wait till July 1st and we'll have no positives.
I didn't read it that way either, but I did read that he was thinking that by that time they're somehow being safer or whatever.
See, I didn't realize, I didn't understand why that was the case, because you're still under the same set of circumstances that they're going to come in, you test them, some are going to be positive, some aren't.
Yeah.
You got to quarantine them, and then those who need to be quarantined are not going to be working out. So I never understood that, but that was a personal preference on his part. But, it's been said 1,000 times and written about 1,000 times more. But I don't think it's untrue in that the kids themselves are going to dictate whether there's a football season or not. It's not going to be the media. It's not going to be fans. It's going to be the football players themselves as far as how much they interact with the student population.
Yeah.
And how much of that they bring back.
Yeah, and you're right, and that's why
there's no bubble here. I mean, this is not Disney World.
That's why I keep saying that, whether people like it or not, a bunch of positive tests right now, they're thrilled. Okay, they are. The football team's like, that's no problem. When we last checked, and one case out of the 14 was still active, everything else was recovered. Everybody else was recovered. Right. We know that these guys are virtually unaffected. That's the thing, is that if this all happens now, if the whole Oklahoma State football team were to get it now, they if you ask them honestly, they'd be like, we're good. Yeah. We're ready to go into the season. We're going to be fine. So, also in the NFL, they canceled 2 preseason games, so it's now down to 2 instead of 4. I say amen.
Yeah, I mean, they should just get rid of preseason games.
The preseason is
the scrimmage against itself on a Tuesday and a Wednesday, or bring another team in like Oakland and Dallas used to do.
Well, it's like I talked to
fight for 2 days and then say you scrimmage and be done.
Yeah. Both the guys I talked to the other day from CBS and the Sports Business Journal talking about, what, we've actually heard that inter practices between 2 squads are more effective than preseason games. Like, that's so true. It's a waste.
Who are the preseason games for?
Owners, money.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's all it is. So 2 of them instead of 4. Not surprising. I hope it stays that way as well. We're going to go to break. When we come back, Brendan Manzer is going to join us and talk everything. The basketball tournament comes up this Saturday for the Stillwater Stars. That's next. Welcome back. Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Tom Dorado with you as we continue on here. And joining us now, Brendan Manzer is coming on the show here. He has been very busy with the basketball tournament, getting ready to rev up.
Wait till he tells us about his team when he go on record here. But before we get into that, we're going to obviously want to get into the Stars, and you're up there in Ohio getting ready for that first game on Saturday at afternoon at 4 here, Oklahoma time. Quickly, what'd you take out of the Eddie film? I know you've seen it a couple of times, and what'd you feel about that? And tell me about country. You found country like everybody else did, right?
Yeah. Hard to find a 7-footer, I guess. I don't know. Evidently it was.
Obviously I know you've seen it too, TD. I'd seen it maybe 2 or 3 times, Coach Sutton's film. I thought it was wonderful. I think it's wonderful. Chris Hunt, who I've gotten to know well, that and his crew, they did a great job telling the stories. It's just the ups and downs of, his career, his life, which all of us, by the way, have. And even watching it the 3rd or 4th time, whatever it was, still a lot of emotions in that. And I'm sure people appreciated that watched it for the first time, and especially those of us around Oklahoma or Oklahoma State that love Coach Sutton so much. Just it was well done, and a lot of good pieces. Sean was unbelievable and open and honest. I thought Rex Chapman was great, and a lot of good bits in there. And TD, your stuff was great. I mean, you were close to Coach and close to the program, and I think the best thing that you said was if you ever wondered about Eddie Sutton, just look at how he handled, January 27 of 2001, and that's all you need to know about him. So, which I completely agree. But anyway, it was great. I mean, it was, we all have chinks in our armor. Some of his were public, and he always got off the mat. And Dick Vitale said it in it too, in the documentary too. I mean, and he said it great. I mean, that's how you judge it and what it's about. And every time Coach Sutton led, and I've always loved that about him. An example he set in that regard too.
Well, I guess Finding Country was just a little lighter in nature, I would imagine.
Yeah.
What was your take on that one?
I'd seen it, and was in that, I guess, a couple sound bites. But so Kat Jamie, who produced that, it's a legitimate, genuine story. I think she tried to reach out or literally find him and wanted to do something on the Grizzlies, because they just, what were they there? 4 years, and a hockey town. They didn't know basketball, and it was just kind of a forgotten period of sports there, just as the documentary or the film indicated. And she eventually found some people that were close to him, and it was interesting. I know that this was the same way for Ron Arthur and the Woodruffs that were in it, and I'm sure Barry Tramel, but she called a couple times, and after the second time I talked to her, and she told me what she was trying to do, it felt genuine. So I kind of shared that with Country, because he's like, hey, this Cat's trying to get a hold of me. I know she's talked to you. What's up? So eventually, I just said, hey, I think she's sincere, and call her if you want, or not. And then Country, it wasn't just because of me. The other guy said this too, TD, but talked to her, and I think he felt comfortable, and I don't think he's seen it though.
Really?
You know how he is. Nah, I don't think so.
Yeah, probably.
I know. I mean, I saw him the other night. I didn't ask him. But,
probably, you're right.
I just said, man, you're going to be on ESPN Wednesday night. He smiled and says, well, I've been on ESPN before.
Yeah, he has, yes.
I said, yeah, you have.
Yeah, I think of all the people who probably wasn't going to run right out and watch, it'd be him. He's probably got something else going on. But, okay, let's switch to the current topic now. And, of course, the Stillwater Stars, and we may have some breaking news here for people, but the Stillwater Stars open up play in the basketball tournament on Saturday, 4 o'clock up there where you are, Columbus, Ohio, against the team out of Philadelphia, unless they change the pairing. Bizarre, to say the least, because what you thought was a good deal of your roster is now no longer a part of your roster.
Yeah, obviously, two former managers that were there around the time Marcus Smart and LeBron and that group, Jeff Barr and Caleb Surley, are general managers of this. And how this tournament works, it's been going on for years now, is you got to have people kind of put it together. I mean, it's just not like, hey, guys, let's go play in this thing. I mean, there's lots involved. And my eyes were open pretty big on what it entails. And so, obviously, they want to do an Oklahoma State-centered team. And, that's where it originated from. So going in to basically the last 48 hours, 7 of our 9 guys on the roster were former Cowboys. The 2 that were not were a couple Kansas guys. We had a couple openings that needed some point guard play, which we're going to get from Tyshawn Taylor, who took Kansas to a national championship game, and Nadir Tharp, both guys that played for Bill Self, who you and I are close with. So I know them, what they're about. But then we had 4 guys. A couple were just kind of COVID reasons. One was not able to come because he's in another country and was concerned about getting back in, and lots of things in the air. And then Markel Brown had a relapse on his ankle, which was huge because we were really excited about having Tyshawn and Markel Brown in our backcourt.
Mm-hmm.
And these are grown men here, pros. This is not. These are guys that many of which have had time in the NBA. I'm talking about the whole tournament itself. All these guys have played overseas or been in the G League. So this is grown man stuff. So you need grown men players. But so we weren't able to replace all 4: Forte, Cobbins, Darrell Williams, and Markel. It was wild, and all legitimate reasons. They all wanted to be here. But so we were able to replace those 4 with 2 guys to allow us to have 7. We added James Banks, who was at Texas, transferred to Georgia Tech, and led the ACC in blocks this year. So that kind of helped fill a little bit of void that Mike Cobbins would have had. And then Cowboy fans remember 2 years ago, a young man by the name of Armani Brooks that played for Kelvin at Houston.
Mm-hmm.
They went to a Sweet 16, and so a shooter, and played for Kelvin, so he's tough and he defends, which I love. And so we're able to kind of piece it together with those 2 guys and from Kansas, and Brian Williams, LeBrion's playing with us. We're excited about, and then Thomas DeZagua,
mm-hmm.
who, by the way, has been great. He's been great in practice. So he's really important to us Saturday. So anyway, we're here. It's been great. The guys are great. Just trying to, we get four little practices, and it was already going to be unique because of COVID. You couldn't really practice before because we had guys from all over the country, and then you add in that we had some new faces. It's been interesting, but it's been a good experience so far, I would say.
In the perfect world, it would have been interesting in that, and I know you're humble, but I do know you're competitive, so I'm not going to buy I'm going to just roll the ball out and let them play. You didn't coach that way. You didn't play that way. A lot of preparation went into it. So don't throw me that line because I'm not going to believe it. But in the perfect world, that would have been okay because you knew about a lot of these guys. How much you've been able to game plan with a roster and then a new roster?
Well, with 7 guys, we haven't been able to play. The 8th guy would be me, pushing 50. So that's not good. But so we really haven't been able to go against one another. So we've just done a lot of like what the football teams do, run a lot of our stuff dry.
Mm-hmm.
In the first night, it's like anything else. When you coach or you're running a business or anything, you're going through it kind of for the first time. You need to just kind of feel your way through some stuff and not make decisions too quick. And so, each day I felt like, I've talked about with the guys, we just got to get to know each other personally, and those things will help us. And so we've done a lot of stuff dry, 5-on-0. Tried to get a lot of conditioning in because one thing is the guys really haven't been able to play anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of options right now with the environment that we're in, and so we're not just rolling the ball out, but at the same time, TD, these guys know how to play, and really through the offensive part of it, especially our early offense, particularly our point guards, Tyshawn and Nadir, they've kind of been running things, and then I'm just another set of eyes, so. I think my biggest role is the next couple of days, just kind of getting prepared for our mindset and, scout and report. And we know quite a bit about this team we're playing and their personnel. And then And then the biggest role I have is just managing those 7 guys, their minutes, and having a feel for lineups within the game. And, you know, that's probably the best value I can bring. But ultimately, it's going to be on these guys. And they're well equipped and they know how to play. And I'm telling you, those 2 Kansas guys have high IQs, and they come by it honestly because of where they played. And it's the same with Armani Brooks, who played for Kelvin. So those are 2 coaches that I know and I have lots of respect for, and those things carry over. And so they, you know, I can use the same terminology, the same language. You know what I'm saying? So I just try to get them to kind of trust me that, you know, that they know I have a little street credit, but at the same time that I also trust them. And I told them up front, you know, this is not me coaching. This is me more managing and leaning on you guys just as much.
You guys have been up there pretty much the whole week, right? Got up there Monday in Columbus. Given the COVID situation, I mean, how did you travel? How much do you socially distance since you've been up there? Take us kind of behind the scenes there.
It's really interesting. So there's been no template for this. I mean, this will be the first basketball games on Saturday played since March 12th of any of this level, certainly, and put on TV. So what we did is everybody, they changed it up. There's only 24 teams. We're all in one location. And your team we all tested twice in about 3-4 days before arriving. And so you had to have 2 negative results. And then when we got here on Monday Night TV, we checked in the hotel and went through all these different stations. And, you know, everybody's got masks on and gloves. And they literally, we walked in the hotel, and before we even checked in, they tested us again. And so from there, we Monday night through late Tuesday night, we all had to quarantine individually in our hotel rooms. You couldn't leave your room. And then once you got the 3rd test back saying you were negative, then what they've allowed us to do the last 2 days is be together as a team. Mm-hmm. So we have a floor at the Hyatt Regency here in Columbus all by ourselves, and we go to practice by ourselves. And I mean, it's a true bubble. So what's interesting about this tournament is it won't just be eyes on basketball, or actually some legitimate live event that we haven't really been able to watch too much of, but the eyes will be by other sports organizations and different things of, you know, how do you maybe manage COVID right now. And TBT, I mean, it's very thorough. This is not a deal they just thrown together. A lot of smart people here feeling their way through it.
Hey, Brendan, Patrick Wheeler here. Kind of a 2-parter, and you kind of just hit on it a little bit. But, you know, you're in a centralized location, which is new, obviously, for the basketball tournament. I think you guys were originally supposed to be in Wichita, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
And
yes,
now in Columbus. So how is it going to be, affect? Let's say you guys, play a number of games and you're stuck there a little longer than some people would want to be. So how is that going to affect the team? And then on top of that, you just kind of said everyone's going to be looking in, but how important is it for the sports world to see, you know what, maybe it is possible not just sports can be played during this time, but basketball can actually be played during this time?
Right. Yeah, Patrick. These guys, our players and other players, they're here because they love to play. I mean, and 99% of them are making money doing this, at some level. And so and a lot of these guys, like I was talking to Tyshawn Taylor earlier today, and he's like, it's obviously a different and bizarre time, but he's used to being on the road and being isolated and have to hang in a hotel room and all of that stuff. So, assuming whatever teams make it to the finals will have been here like, I don't know what it will be, 14 days, something like that, 15 days. And you stay inside this bubble here. The arena's literally across the street. We actually, Patrick, we practice here. There's 4 practice courts in these conference centers here,
okay,
where they brought in floors and goals. So you only have 2 goals. So anyway, that'll be one thing. And then, I think it's going to be interesting kind of being a part of this and what the end result will be in terms of the health side of it. once you create this bubble, and if how do you do it, and does it work? And it'd be impossible not to have somebody get the virus, but I think, I don't want to jinx it, but so far so good here, and so it'll be interesting to see what the other eyes of the sport see.
Can you replace people? Let's say two of them come down with it. I mean, we going to go with 5?
No, the deal was, and so we lost a couple right before we got here. But once you get here, if you have and you're together, and somebody gets it, your team will be let go.
Oh wow. Man.
Yeah. So they had teams on standby, and there's either been 2 or 3 teams that arrived. Trying to think that got let go. Now this is all a little bit. We don't get all this information. We're like I said, we're isolated. There's just kind of stuff you hear. Yeah, I mean, it's like, because they don't want to, to chance it. Well, so, it's like, 600 people here, and if that's happened, it may have been only 1 or 2 people. And then your team, you can't play.
Jeez.
I know the issue for the NBA has been, one of the issues they're trying to hopefully avoid is puncturing the bubble, basically, because for instance in the NBA, I think some of the staff that works at that Disney World complex, they're not required to stay in the bubble, so they'll be coming in and out. Is that going to be something that has been, I guess, either brought up or thought about as a potential issue for you guys? Is someone actually puncturing that bubble, coming in and out of the hotel, whatever, something like that could cause things to go awry?
Yeah, great question, Patrick. I think everybody that's working they're here, and in this hotel, or maybe 2 hotels. It's kind of interesting. I don't know that there's a Hilton right next to us too that I believe is being used, but I don't think it's a situation where people are coming and going. I mean, I think I'm talking about the workers for the TBT, and it's a big staff. Again, this is not. This is an ESPN-backed deal, and even without COVID, it's bigger than I even appreciated or knew until I got here. But no, I think I don't know this for a fact. I mean, Patrick, you're asking, but I think that the workers, they're here, so it's not a come and go deal to my knowledge.
You even had a media day, didn't you? To some extent today?
Yeah. They had one today for us. Yeah, we had lots of questions, a lot of media from back in Oklahoma that were part of it, and I think they wanted to talk. They had an opportunity to talk to LeBron and Thomas DeZagua and Brian Williams. I think those Oklahoma State guys, and then Tyshawn Taylor was part of that too.
I got to ask you this, because LeBron is he's an interesting member of your team. I don't know that he got any time, maybe G League stuff, played in Japan for a while. But, he almost just seemed like he was a shoe-in to the NBA when he was here. I don't know if it turned out that way, but has he lost any skill in your mind? Because you saw him when he played here.
I mean, he is when you're older, smarter, the game slows down for you. The game slowed down for me, but that was for different reasons. That was just because I got
You were hoping they slowed down for you.
Yeah, exactly. No, but you know what I'm saying, just mature. Like the team we're playing, these guys are 28 to 30. We're young in the whole scheme of things. And but the game's slow. It's slow to LeBron. He's still at his best 15 feet and in. I mean, we think that as much switching as there is here, and it's kind of the nature. I mean, I don't love to switch everything or 1 through 4 if I were coaching the team, because you want certain matchups. I came from Eddie Sutton background, right? But in this, with the limited time, you kind of got to lean onto that a little bit, as do other people. And so, LeBron can get in those matchup situations. I mean, he can attack bigs from the perimeter. He can post littles. He's still his game.
Okay.
I think he shoots it better from long range than he did. But he's a little slimmer than he was when he was at Oklahoma State. Yeah, but he just always had natural strength. I mean, he's got grown man strength still. So, and especially with Markel not being with us, he was important anyway. Brian, but he's very important for us to put pressure on the other team defensively. So, we'll try to get him going early, hopefully.
Last thing for the people who are watching, any unique rules to this thing? In your case, are they going to let you have 8 fouls a game before you have to foul out so you don't lose anybody? But any unique rules we got to watch for?
There are. The most unique is how the game ends. So there's 4 9-minute quarters. And, you'll have a media timeout in the middle of each of those quarters. But when you get to the fourth quarter, the media timeout at the under 4-minute mark. Whenever that dead ball is, or you call a timeout. The game at that point then goes to an elam ending, like they did, I think, in the NBA All-Star game. And so whatever the score is, they add 8 points to the team who's ahead. So if, Patrick's team's got 68 and Tom Dorado's team has 60, then the mark becomes 68 plus 8, 76. So then you play with that 68-60 score, first one to 76, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it becomes like pickup ball at the Annex or Colvin Center or the Blacktop in the streets of Philly or wherever. And that's the most unique part of it. And it's kind of cool, to be honest with you, because the game ends on a make. Somebody scores to end the game.
As long as it doesn't end on the free throw, right? Like the NBA All-Star game?
Exactly.
Well, it sounds like a heck of an experience, I think, for these guys, but you yourself too. I'll really be interested in getting with you when you get back, and you'll have some great stories probably to tell.
Yeah, it'll be like everything else in life. You go through it one time, and you're like, okay, this is what I would do differently. I'm sure. I hope that I don't, but I'm sure there's going to be lots of things, maybe even more than normal, that I look back in a situation and go, I could have. Maybe we should consider this. So, but anyway, in the end, though, it's just ball, and those guys will go play, and I'll manage timeouts and minutes with the 7 guys. I have to be strategic because there's 3 or 4 of them we're going to really have to lean on, and just kind of feel our way through it. So it'll be tough. The team we're playing is like, they're underseeded. They're really, really good, really good.
And we're looking forward to it. At least it's something we can tune into and see a final score and some competition and see guys that we know. But hey, best of luck. Appreciate you taking time. It's almost there, so I know you. The butterflies are starting to churn a little bit. I don't care what level you're on when you're coaching, you're ready to go. But appreciate your time. Best of luck. Hopefully we'll talk next week when you're moving on in this tournament.
I hope so. It'd be nice. One of the things real quick that these guys are trying to do is this gives another game film of exposure for them in their careers. And, in the very least, I hope that it helps these guys individually, be seen, because you're going against really good competition. The competition here will be a lot better than a lot of these guys are playing overseas in some of the leagues they're in. So they're going against good people. So I'm hoping that we can help them personally too. And hey, and if you win the whole thing, it's $1.2 million
on top of everything else.
And there's only 9 of us, so that's a pretty good.
Hey, that's why you're in the stock investments financial department.
Oh yeah,
you've already figured that out, haven't you? Yeah, I can imagine without you didn't even need the calculator on that one.
Yeah, we've already had these players asked me what I would do with it. I know exactly what I would do with it. So.
You probably already have it mentally put away somewhere, I would imagine.
Oh yeah. We'll wait on a down day because we're going to have some of those at some point. So.
Hey, hang in there, baby. I know we got a lot of people be watching you, and I appreciate you coming on. And we'll touch base with you next week. Hopefully you're still playing, and we'll take a good look at that big that final game when it's coming up, and maybe the Stars will be the winners there. But best of luck, bud.
PD, thanks. Patrick, thanks, guys.
Okay. Thank you.
Talk to you soon. Thank you. How about those rules?
The elam ending is really fascinating.
I don't understand the real reason for that.
I think it gives you that, like you said, those final 8. It's like that competition of, because they did it for instance, the NBA. We know how the All-Star game just got boring at the end, right? It was just like constant scoring, and it wasn't really that close. Well, then this gave them the opportunity of, well, we got to get these last 8 here and really got to go after it and get to this one final score. But the way that it happened in the last NBA All-Star game was the free throw, which was kind of boring. I mean, instead of a jump shot or something like that.
Well,
so
how exciting could it be if you go from up 8 to up at 16?
Yeah. No. So the score, it goes to you add, like you said, the 8 there, and then to the score, and then whatever that score, like you said, for it'd be 76. Then wherever you are score-wise between your two, you're going after to that score.
So
does that make sense?
Oh, it's almost like another game.
Yeah, it's basically like a last 4-minute different game to reach that final score. So yeah, it's not as easy as it sounds to explain, but it's definitely unique. When we come back, Major League Baseball is going to have a form of fans this year, in some way or the other, and I'm going to ask you.
We're outside watching.
I'm going to ask you. I need to know if you would do what they are asking.
I'm not
some
signing
fans
any
to do.
piece of paper.
It's not signing a piece of paper. It's better than that. That's next on the Afternoon Sports Drive. Welcome back, Afternoon Sports Drive, wrapping it up here on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Tom Dorado with you on Thursday. Getting ready to head into the July 4th weekend. Everybody's having a great start to that. Hopefully some people get a start to it now, too. Tommy D, real quick. Major League Baseball is looking at, well, some stadiums already are, but it's probably going to be widespread before we get there, having cutouts of fans in the stands. Now, this can range in price, okay? You can pay $49, for instance, at the Oakland Athletics to have just a normal cutout there. Now, if you want to have it in the foul ball zone, this is real. If you want to have it in the foul ball zone, $129, okay? Now, if the foul ball hits your cutout, it is sent to you in the mail. So you get the foul ball. It's kind of creative, isn't it? Keeping fans in the game.
And when I thought I had a problem with starting a guy at second base in extra innings.
This is worse?
Or putting advertisements on their unis.
So you wouldn't? Would you?
Well, no.
You wouldn't pay to have a cutout at the Mets?
No.
Oh, man. Okay. I don't think if
I can't be there, I don't want a cutout.
I don't think I would pay to have a cutout. Now, what I read, too, was, for instance, at Oakland, they can't guarantee. Now you know this going in. Here we go with the waiver stuff. You can't guarantee the safety of your cutout. For instance, weather and so if it gets rained on, or if a bird takes a on it,
so
then
you're done. You're pretty much.
Yeah, sorry, but we got your money.
So you got to pay another $49.
Yeah. I read a story today where, for instance, the German Soccer League did the exact same thing. Ended up making $600,000.
I wonder how it looks. I mean, does it look like people are really in the stands?
I've seen pictures. I'll have to bring one up for you, but I've seen kind of a mock. I've seen a picture of the German Soccer League, but there was a mock of what it would look like at the Coliseum in Oakland.
Wow.
And it's strange, man. I'm telling you, it really is. I guess I like the creativity, but I don't know if I wouldn't pay for it personally. But there are going to be people that will pay for it. Can they fill up a stadium? I mean, that's going to be the interesting part.
Man.
And then I like how they're going to designate foul ball zones. Like, this area is a foul ball, this area is not a foul ball.
But you can buy into the foul zone.
Yeah, or at least in Oakland you can for a hefty price there. But
somebody's probably been up a long time, needs some coffee or something. Come up with that idea.
That's a good marketing gimmick.
But if they make $1, that's more than they were going to make.
That's exactly right. And on top of that, I know we got to get out of here, but Rob Manfred came out and said that on Dan Patrick's show today that Major League Baseball was never going to play more than 60 games this season.
He said that, really?
He said that. He said, and I you know what? I thought.
So we wasted all this time?
I thought, knowing that he had the power to implement a 60-game season, he probably thought, you know what? Let's drag this out as long as we possibly can. Let's keep it going and make them think that we're going to have as many games as we can. And ultimately, when it comes down to it, I'll slap the 60 games on there. We'll be happy with that because it's the fewest we can get.
I don't know if that's the route I would have gone.
I mean, would it surprise you, though, with Rob Manfred? It wouldn't surprise me.
No, because he's a strange one.
He is. He's not making any fans.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. But and he had that power. Maybe he thought that they would come together in some form or fashion. But he always knew at the end it could be a 60 games.
Oh, yeah.
So we wasted a couple of months.
Yeah, it's not a good
back
look.
And forth.
It's not a good look. Definitely not for the owner's side now. But Major League Baseball as a whole, embarrassing. Really, it truly is.
But I could see your cutout in the stadium.
You can see it at Busch Stadium.
Louis, yeah.
Yeah, in a foul ball zone.
Can you dictate where you want to sit?
Yeah, I mean, if you put it
sit right behind a plate, the camera.
Well, I think that's going to be the case too, but it's going to cost you.
Can we have cameras anymore behind the from center field now with? Maybe you'd be stealing.
You could probably have the yeah. Well, as long as you're not in Houston, but you can have the cameras. You probably just got to have one person there, no one else around. So, and then they're going to probably pan to your cutout and say, "Look there, I'm on TV." Yeah, he's made the same face all game. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
I can't wait to see your picture.
So it's gonna happen now, right? Okay.
Yeah, I bet you're in.
Oh man,
you're probably preparing me. You're already in.
Oh, by the way, they're gonna do it. Major League Baseball is endorsing it already. So it's gonna happen everywhere.
Jeez.
That's where we are today, 2020. This has been the Afternoon Sports Drive here on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Big thank you to our guests today, and Brendan Manzer coming on and talking about the basketball tournament. Jimmie Tramel earlier on, Tom Dorado, Jason Elmquist, of course, as always. We will be back on Monday. There'll be national programming going on tomorrow. We're starting our July 4th weekend now. I hope everybody has a great and safe 4th of July. Tom, thanks as always for coming on.
We'll get you going Sunday night. We'll have the first show
that's
back
right. You've got your Stillwater Jukebox 4th of July special.
That's correct.
Okay.
We have kind of an all-American list of singers and groups and all things,
Cool.
Big
That's
hitters.
5 to 8, right?
They won't be cutouts.
6 to 8.
They'll be real people.
6 to 8?
Yeah.
Okay, 6 to 8. Yeah, it won't be cutouts?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Well, Tom's going to be social distancing himself. So it'll be
it's not hard on Sunday night. There's nobody in here.
Don't forget to check that out. Stillwater Jukebox, Sunday night, 6 to 8. This has been the Afternoon Sports Drive. That's Tom Dorado. I'm Patrick Wheeler.